If you're new to this whole photography thing, you might be making some mistakes that you don't even realize you're making. I know I definitely was at that time, so I'm going to show you some mistakes that I made and how you can avoid the same thing. What is going on, everybody? My name is Finn Badgley. I'm a commercial fashion and portrait photographer, and today I'm walking you through some of the most common photography mistakes that you may make when you're starting out, or even some that you will make later on and you may not even know you're making them. So I'll show you how to kind of fix these, and that way you can start taking better images today. Right off the bat, there's one that we all kind of get hit with, especially when we're starting out and especially when we're trying to kind of learn our camera settings, and that is having either an overexposed, blown out, or terribly underexposed photo. Now, this just comes with practice and getting to know your camera. A lot of times when we start out, we'll typically rely on auto, see everything come out great, switch to manual, and then everything kind of gets crazy from there because you don't really understand the settings yet. If you kind of want a breakdown of how these settings work and how to work with them to make your images better, you can check out this video I made that kind of breaks down all those kind of camera settings and camera basics in under 5 minutes. It was a very quick watch. Now, that said, just something to be mindful of when you're taking photos is to kind of watch your exposure and make sure that everything is kind of coming out nicely and that nothing's terribly overexposed. I definitely fell into this when I was starting out. Everything would be terribly bright, and that is mostly because I just did not understand what my camera settings were doing and how to use those to take a proper photo, and because of that I lost a lot of images, and that is a road that I know a lot of people can go down quite easily. So just kind of look over those camera settings, get to know your camera, play around a lot, watch a lot of videos on those kind of camera basics and how to operate your camera, so that way you get the best images possible every time you go out. It's something that can be intimidating at first, but once you know it, it's there, and it's like riding a bike. You kind of never forget, and you just kind of get more practice over time and start taking better photos, because at a certain point you don't even think about it. Moving on to number 2, this one particularly relates to when you're taking portraits or anything involving a person, and that is having the kind of awkward poses. This is something that is definitely more prevalent with beginner photographers or people just new to the kind of whole portrait genre in general. A lot of times you won't kind of really know how to pose people, especially if you're working with people who aren't professional models, and you get asked the question a lot, what do I do with my hands? And you kind of don't have the answer. So my best advice here is something that I did when I was starting out, is look at Pinterest, places like that, to kind of find inspiration for poses and then kind of have your subject replicate them. Now, this doesn't always work, but it gives you kind of a framework to work off of. And in addition to this, I will be making some posing tip videos in the future, so make sure you subscribe so you see those when they come out, and that way you will have the knowledge of how to pose your models better. The other thing is, it's just about making your subject very comfortable. And this, again, just takes practice. You need to photograph a lot of people, and over time you will get better. You kind of understand how to move people. You can watch tutorials, different things on it to kind of get ideas, look at posing guides, styling guides, etc. So that way you kind of have a better idea of how to pose people to make a better image, because nothing's worse than you have a beautifully lit, fantastic shot, but the model, just the pose is just not there, and it just doesn't work. Now, a lot of times something else that is very helpful with this is to kind of instruct your subject to either portray an emotion or have them kind of do a continuous motion rather than just like, oh, put your hand here, put that arm there, do this, do that kind of thing. It's a much more fluid process, and it creates a lot more comfortability between you and your subject, and a lot better images, because then they're not really thinking about all the intricacies and they're just kind of moving as they would. Moving along to number 3, this kind of also plays off of the camera basics idea, and that is having a shaky frame. And this mainly just comes down to having your shutter speed high enough for what you're shooting. A lot of times you want more light, so you'll try to kind of open up your shutter a bit more, but then that'll just give you a blurry photo, or even if it's just to the point where maybe you're not holding your camera quite as steady, you get that little bit of shake and it makes your photos look out of focus, and you know it was focused properly, so you wonder kind of what's going on, and that's it. There's that little bit of camera shake in there. So something to kind of keep in mind when you're photographing is to kind of slow down your breathing and make sure you're holding the camera nice and steady, so that way you don't get that kind of jitter in there, because it has definitely ruined some otherwise perfect shots in the past. I know that for myself, and I'm sure that is also the case with you as well. So make sure to kind of be mindful of your shutter speed, make sure it is cohesive with your focal length, and then maybe add in a little bit more if you can. If the lighting situation allows for it, maybe you would need to bump your ISO, but it will keep the image sharp, and a sharp image is always better than a blurry image with less grain. Moving along to number 4, this one I have another video going very in depth on, link to that up here. Basically, this is over editing your photos, just processing the ever loving out of them. And sometimes you just kind of want to play around in Photoshop or Lightroom. You learned a new technique and you want to try it, but not all the techniques work on every image, or sometimes you just need to pull it way back. Now, this definitely does take time to train your eye, and sometimes even professionals like myself, and I know many others, can still fall victim to this. And the way that we solve it is take time between your initial edit and when you look at it again, and if anything is kind of glaring out at you, then maybe it's a sign to kind of pull it back a little bit. Especially when you're talking about color grading or anything like that, it is very easy to fall into the trap of over editing your photographs. Sometimes, as a good rule of thumb, whenever I add any kind of grade or anything like that on the photo, I'll just take it down just a couple percent to make sure that it's not completely full-blown. Subtlety is always better in this case, at least 9 out of 10 times. This is where you see a lot of that kind of overdone HDR effect that was really popular quite a few years ago, and even the really intense teal and orange that's starting to kind of fade away now. A lot of these trends kind of influence that, but it is something to just be careful of and make sure you kind of just take a break every now and then between editing your photos and look back on them to make sure it still holds up. And number 5, this one is a little harder to identify, and it definitely can be more prevalent in even seasoned professionals' work, and that is not having any kind of story or subject matter in your photos. A pretty photo can be a pretty photo, but it won't be near as engaging if there's not kind of a story going on or something happening in it. Some of the greatest photos are the way they are because of the story that is in there, and obviously art is subjective, but if you can kind of infuse some kind of story some way or another into your photos, and it doesn't always need to be glaringly obvious, it just has to kind of evoke something in the viewer. So if you put that emotion into your photo, the idea is that will come out and relate to the viewer. Now obviously with portraits, fashion, etc., there's a lot more that you can have going on with your set, your location, etc. But even with something like product photography, you can still infuse a story in there, and that is kind of what separates the people down here from the people up here, is that there's a story in the images, and you can kind of tell more of what's going on. You can feel yourself brought into that and thinking about it more. It stops you, and you have to kind of absorb what's going on because there is such a story there. This is something that took me quite a bit of time to understand, and since then there has been a definite shift in my work from when I was not kind of caring about story at all and just kind of wanted to make a pretty picture, compared to when I started focusing on story more and then started getting some incredible results in doing so. And one bonus mistake for you, just because I feel like it, this is not caring about lighting, not learning how to light an image. This is one of the things that is fundamental with photography and takes a great photo to an amazing photo, takes an okay photo to a great photo. I have a whole Skillshare course breaking down the fundamentals of light. Link for that will be in the description down below if you kind of want to take a in-depth look at learning how to start thinking about light and how to shape it. Now, that said, it is just important to be mindful of where the light is, how it's being used, if it's hard light, soft light, etc. All these things make a difference to your image, because that's how these images are shaped, and a lot of times light can even help tell the story that you're trying to. A poorly lit photo can be amazing, but if it's poorly lit, it won't read the same way as if it is an amazingly lit photo that's already beautiful off the bat. You're going to get a much better result out of that. Light can be used to tell stories, to create mood and depth in an image. It really is what draws you in, and a lot of times this is something that I see too often, is people afraid to kind of experiment with light, and that holds you back from really harnessing the power to create amazing images. So if I would advise you of anything, think about story, think about light, and how you can shape your images with these. It's something that can take you from kind of that beginner amateur level to that next step, and will set you apart from those around you. It'll make you stand out, and it'll give you a style over time. Now, with all that said, we broke down a bunch of photography mistakes. Whether you're a beginner, whether you're a pro, a lot of people can make any one of these mistakes at any point in their career, especially if you're just starting out. And this is a way to kind of fast track yourself, kind of look at your work, look at how you take your photos and how you can take them to the next level. So if you enjoyed this video, if you got some value out of it, drop a like, leave a comment if you like this kind of thing, if you want to see more of it from me in the future. Subscribe if you haven't already. Hit the bell to be notified when I post new videos so you never miss an upload. And I will see you on the next one.